always had a dream to live by the ocean on a breezy day as we're battling the breeze here. Isn't it lovely though to feel the wind blowing through our hair? As you can see here behind us, that dream came true with the beautiful Pacific. There's not a morning goes by, Laurie, that I don't just drop to my knees to give thanks for this amazing view. And I find that I do my best thinking, and I feel the most connected to people when I feel connected to nature.
The one thing from your book that I really learned that helped me the most is you said that sometimes you need to be quiet to figure it out.
Yes.
And so, just almost slowing down
Yeah.
helps you get farther in life.
I think so, and you really, in this day and age, we live in such a noisy world, don't we? Where we're all on our phones. I'm as bad as the next person. And we're kind of continually receiving stimulus in one way or another. And we live here, we live in Los Angeles, you're driving and there's so much, advertising, and it's just a very noisy world. People are talking and people are texting, and I find that I really need to step back and disconnect, and that nature, literally seeing something green, seeing a tree, stepping out and looking up at the sky. Maybe not everybody is fortunate enough to be near the ocean, but to just see a little bit of sky, I think it just can help.
Some fresh air.
Just centers you.
So you have started a multimedia platform of bringing good news. What a great idea, and yet you're the first person to do that. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing with Lightworkers and Light TV.
For sure. Well, Lightworkers is a production company that I started. We live in scary times. There's a lot of darkness out there, and I just felt that we forget that there's so much goodness in the world as well. And I wanted to find a platform where we could highlight and celebrate the good. You can find it on lightworkers.com. We tell inspirational, uplifting stories. It's kind of designed to get it on your phone, because I think that we want our content in shorter bites. We call it like snackable viewing, that you don't really have to commit. I think we all love going to the movies, and that will never change. And we all have our TV.
Let's hope not.
that we all have our TV programs that we like, but sometimes you just want that little quick fix, or some story that will warm your heart or lift you up, something you might want to share with your mom, or gosh, my sister will love this. It's been growing. We have one little series that's been so popular above and beyond everything else. It's called 37 Seconds of Good News. And it's like, for heaven's sake, as busy as you are, and we are all busy, everybody has 37 seconds just to be, reminded that there's extraordinary people in our world.
What's amazing to me about this whole thing is you have been talking about this for a while, that you wanted to do this, but it feels like right now is the time that we need it the most. And when you started talking about it, it didn't feel like that. And
it didn't feel as relevant, perhaps.
No, it felt special, but now it feels necessary.
Well, I think that we are all hungry for hope, and we're hungry for the places that will bring us together, Laurie. I think you look out at the landscape of America, and there's so much division and so much concern, and people are finding ways to be rather hateful to each other on social media. I think we've forgotten just how to communicate to each other, that we could disagree with each other and still be friends.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe that's why it feels more needed now than ever, that we are just sort of celebrating these stories and finding these amazing people who are kind, and that's, it's sort of the heartbeat of Lightworkers, is kindness, promoting kindness, celebrating kindness, and reminding us all that we belong to each other, that we're, and trying to find the places of common ground.
In your book, this is kind of a question that I want to ask you for myself, but I'm sure other people are interested. You speak a lot about God.
Yes.
And as a mother, and trying to talk to my children about God, I get pushback. How do you speak to people about God, especially children, when they don't understand exactly?
Well, I was raised in a family of faith. I was raised in a home where it was always the right time to say a prayer or to give thanks. And while I grew up in church, I also grew up with a father who really encouraged this love of nature and the ability to see God in everything, in the beauty of creation, and to see the spark of God in every person you meet, which is therefore all the more reason to be kind to each other. And I tell the story in my book, Box of Butterflies, about losing my mom.
When you were 10.
When I was just 10.
Made me cry.
Yeah, I know. It was so, and she was unexpectedly that she dropped dead. And but when my father took me up to the cemetery on a very windy day, like today, not quite as beautiful, but we were laying some flowers on her grave, and a little butterfly flew by, and my dad said, "Would you look at that wee butterfly? That could be your mother's spirit right there." And so it was such a great comfort to me to think that my mother was somehow still around, you know. And so I've taken that theme through my whole life.
Since you were 10 years old,
Since I was
butterflies
10.
have been...
And Laurie, they've just shown up. Look at you in your butterfly sweater.
Okay, first of all, I have to be honest with you, everybody. Like, I have 3 children at home still. I have a job. I don't read a lot of books. I could not put your book down. I found myself making little white lies. I hope I'm not going to get in trouble. But we would be at business dinners, and I would be like, I have to work really early in the morning. We have to go. And so I could crawl into bed and read
so great.
your book. It's so good. I mean, I marked it all up and like highlighted things. And but anyway, there's a story in there how you were at Operation Smile, which you're very involved
it's
with.
a charity that I've been an ambassador for over 20 years.
You know what, maybe we should tell, maybe everyone doesn't know what it is. Want to mention?
Yeah, of
tell
course.
them about it.
Operation Smile is this amazing volunteer group that go into third world and developing countries to repair children with facial deformities, primarily cleft lip and cleft palates. And the volunteer nature of it is so incredibly touching, because here we are to be reminded of the goodness of people, that there are doctors and nurses and medical personnel all across not just America but the world who are giving back and travel internationally to help these children. And you know, we take so much for granted, our faces and our smiles and our mouths, and imagine for a moment that you had this huge deformity, or if you were the mother of a child who was born with this deformity and you don't believe there's ever going to be a solution, that the child is never going to be able to live a normal life. And through this really affordable surgery, it's only a couple of $100 American, a child's life is changed forever. It's really extraordinary, and I'm very, I'm screaming from the rooftops the work that they do. And
well, the story in the book goes that at one of the events that you were part of, she ended up, Roma bought 2 raffle tickets, like kind of reluctantly a little bit.
Yes.
And they were in a huge box of other raffle tickets, and sure enough, the one drawn was Roma's name. And
unbelievable.
That's a crazy
it's
story.
Unbelievable. But listen, here's the craziest part of the story. So, yes, my name was drawn, and the prize, unbeknownst to me at the time, was a butterfly ring jewelry. And so the butterflies had this significance where it just has shown up my whole life, and it represents my mom. So I just felt certain that, you know, that it was a sign or a message. But my friend Brooke Burke was the MC that night, and she actually pulled the winning ticket. And there was a second prize, and she put her hand in and pulled out the second ticket, and it was me again. So she thought, I can't possibly call out her name twice, everybody will think that it's fixed. And I said, at that point, I thought, I should get on a plane and go to Las Vegas.
I mean, it's Seriously.
If I'm on a running streak.
I like how she rigged it the opposite way.
She did. She didn't reveal that I had won
twice.
That I had won. But honestly, for me, I have, I remember when I first moved to New York City and I was an out-of-work actress, and, we're speaking of dreams, and I had this dream on my heart to be able to make a living as an actor. And at the time I was a coat check girl, so there was a big gap between the dream and the reality.
That and this.
And I remember getting rejected for an Irish Spring soap commercial.
Because you were too Irish?
I was too Irish. And
but you have to do the audition, right? I remember you're so funny.
The copy was, I went in and I remember sitting with these beautiful girls in the waiting room, gorgeous redheads, but they were from Philadelphia and Boston, and I was like, I'm really Irish, I must be a shoe-in for this. And the girl came out and she gave me the copy, and it said, the man says, manly, yes. And all I had to say was, and I like it too, and I like it too. And what they wanted, Laurie, was they really wanted, I guess, Hollywood Irish. Oh, and I like it too, or something like that. And of course, I wouldn't be allowed home again if I turned in that performance. So anyway, that and maybe a multitude of other reasons I didn't get it. But I remember going into a diner to get a cup of coffee and just feeling incredibly discouraged and.
You can't even get the Irish roll.
I can't even get the Irish Spring soap commercial, for heaven's sake. And the waitress came up to say, what do you want? And pulled her notepad out and had a tattoo of a butterfly on her wrist, And so I've had moments like that all my life. And what's been amazing since the book has been in print is that people are reading the story and responding to the story. That how many people, first of all, the butterfly, the significance of the butterfly for so many people, because it's a symbol of transformation, isn't it?
Caterpillar.
From the caterpillar, and you can't help but wonder, does the caterpillar know it's going to become a butterfly? And in what places in, our lives or your life are you, longing for the metamorphoses to grow your wings? And one of the most valuable little takeaways that people are responding to in the book is I tell the story of a little boy who thought he was doing the butterfly a favor by taking very small manicure scissors and cutting the butterfly out of the cocoon because he could see this struggle occurring. And yet the truth is, when the butterfly emerged, it was soggy and wet and had no strength in its wings, because it's the very struggle that it gives you the wings to fly. And I think that the symbolism of that in our lives, certainly in my life, I can only speak to my life, that's what I've told, that my own story here, is that the pain of loss, to lose your mom at any age, is a heartbreak. To lose your mom at 10.
It's devastating.
To live in a world where love can be removed like that. And my dad, of course, did the best he could, but that unconditional, nurturing, loving source was gone, and overnight, it was like the lights had been turned out, like all the color had been removed. And so the pain of that ended up creating in me a different kind of strength. And while of course I would rather have my mother back, I do appreciate that there was a blessing in it.
You're seeing the light.
To try to find the blessing in it. And that is something I try to do every day. Every day is not perfect. And issues come in every day for all of us. But it is a choice to try to find the value in it. Like you and I are sitting here, and I don't know if the sound is picking up. There's the chirping of an incredibly beautiful bird in the background, but just to take, just to hear
and appreciate
and have gratitude, and and to, there's a Mary Oliver poem that I love, and I'm going to misquote it terribly, where she says that somebody once gave her a box of darkness, And it's taken her whole life to see that that too was a gift. And that sometimes there is the gift in the, in what you're going through. And I know that when, one of the defining roles in my acting career was playing the angel Monica on Touched by an Angel. And it was such a great role, and I loved playing her. But I can't help but think that the very qualities that Monica had to have were compassion, empathy, kindness. And these were qualities that had been born in me because of that early loss in me. I know what it is to have empathy because I have suffered. I know what it is to have felt the sorrow of loss because I have lost. And I know what it is to offer kindness and comfort to somebody who's going through that. It created compassion in me. And so I can't help but think sometimes that life prepares you for what's coming, and certainly, that was, nothing could have, I was not an actress on a mission when I got that role. I was an actress
trying to get a job.
Needed to pay my rent, to finally move out of my coat checking career, which I'd worked hard at, back to our earlier thought, whatever you do well. If a job is worth doing, it's worth doing well.
Who's rocking your world right now?
Well, I didn't get to go to Coachella. Some of my kids were down there, but I have gone online and watched how Beyonce just knocked it out of
Next
the
level.
park and into the outer orbit. So, I mean, she's just amazing,
she's rocking everyone's
right?
world. Amazing.
She's rocking everybody's world.
You're married to Mark Burnett. Tell us something that maybe we don't know about him.
Oh my gosh. Well, speaking of funny, he's perhaps the funniest guy I know.
It's
I think it's one of the secrets to a successful marriage. And by the way, I have my 10-year wedding anniversary tomorrow. And I got married right here in our garden.
It surprises me that you've only been married for 10 years because you and Mark just seem like...
We're just like, we are. Well, we were together for a number of years before that. But he just keeps me laughing. He's very spontaneous, where I'm a little bit, I like to kind of know what I'm doing. I'm a bit more organized.
Whose closet would you like to raid?
Oh gosh. I would like to raid the closet of the character played by Kerry Washington on Scandal, Olivia Pope.
Oh.
I loved the wardrobe on that.
Gorgeous.
Those little, because I'm a small person, and I sometimes can look like clothes are wearing me, if I'm not in, slightly more fitted gear. But if I can just for a second, just give a shout out to the fabulous jeans that I'm wearing, because they are beyond comfortable. They feel like I'm wearing leggings.
They look so good on you.
And they're so comfortable, so thank you.
My pleasure.
Right here, this design right here, this Laurie Felt. But I...
How would Riley describe your style? Riley is her daughter.
Riley is my daughter, and she's almost 22. Yes. Yeah, she's just about to graduate from college. I would say that, I think she thinks I'm, cooler than most moms, but a little bit buttoned up. I think maybe she thinks I'm a little bit proper. But I tell you, poor Riley, because she used to come into my closet, and like most girls, I have a pretty good shoe collection. And and when she was a little girl, her, she'd run around in shoes, like I'm sure your daughters do. And she would long for the day when she would fit into my shoes. But then she had this massive growth spurt that took her from, the shoes being too big for her through to the shoes being too small for her. And so she just missed out.
By the way, lucky you, because you would never see those shoes again. How would you describe Riley's style?
Riley's got a nice sort of, if it's the opposite, if she's thinking I'm too formal, that, she's very laid back. She's a college student, and but she's so beautiful. My Riley has the most beautiful complexion of anyone I know. She's so pale. We always joke that she never goes out in the sun. She's been really good, unlike the rest of us who, don't go out in the sun if you're very young and watching this live. Do not spend time in the sun. It comes back
and haunts you.
And haunts you later.
Freckles.
I know. But
so, are you good at any sports?
No.
I didn't think so. Do you ever yell? I have never heard Roma yell.
No, not really. Years ago, somebody shared with me, between stimulus and response, there is a space. And I try to live my life with an awareness of that space. So the moment of yelling would require that I hadn't passed through that space.
You would be unconscious about it.
I would be unconscious. Yeah. And it's not that I don't get upset or angry, but it doesn't usually manifest itself in a raising of my voice.
It can't be the same. The same can't be said for Mark, though, right?
No. Mark is very noisy. Mark wakes up talking and goes to sleep talking. He loves to talk. But I have been known, I could go out here and I appreciate that sometimes you have to get the energy out of your body.
Right.
I just don't like to take it out on anybody else. It's that. So I'm all for grabbing a
pause.
Yeah, or grabbing a stick and hitting a pillow or something.
One of your kids, no, I'm kidding.
You're stomping, because I think it's not good to hold on to stuff physically for your health.
Can we talk a little bit?
Look, you're trying to keep this light, and I'm still going through the pause.
I give up.
I just have to lose the pause, maybe.
What motivated you to write a book?
Yes, I didn't have enough going on.
Right?
Well, I really felt the call on my heart that, over the years I've been asked a number of times to share my story. And I always thought maybe I have a good short story. I have a couple of stories that I've shared and people have been touched with or impacted with. But the idea of putting them all together and creating a narrative only came in the last few years, I thought. And it just started really with jotting down some of those some stories from my own life. I'm also a friend who has a multitude of inspirational quotes, of poems, of things that have been valuable to me.
You're a student.
I am.
Of that. You
and I've
went
loved
to school
that.
for that.
I have books on my shelf with Post-its and turn down corners and things that have been highlighted, that have been helpful to me in different seasons of my life. And I thought here was an opportunity to not just tell my story, to tell my story in a way that I hope would be valuable to somebody else, particularly anybody who's experienced loss or who needs some encouragement or who needs, to be reminded of hope or goodness,
It's almost like a story for other people.
Yes, well, I think I wanted to tell the story too in a way, Laurie, that didn't feel like it's not a lofty book. Like you mentioned, you're busy and it's hard to commit to reading a book. I understand, but I wanted to write a book that wasn't overwhelming. It's not some great big huge literary work of art. Although it did make New York Times bestseller.
I love that. Now. That's fantastic.
But it's it's an easy read, and it's also written in such a way, I think, where you could dip in and out of it, It has titles that are.
She says that, but what happens is you don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to put it down. I just couldn't wait to get home and read it.
But what I was able to do, I think, was that, if I told the story of being in Ireland or of my mom or my dad, they're just personal stories. I wanted to tell it in a way that felt like we were just sitting, talking, so it has an intimacy to the writing style. I mean, I wrote it, so it's not, I don't know how to write any other way except how I talk, really. And then I was able to lace it with these amazing quotes that suddenly, set against the context of my story, took on a slightly different meaning. It's got all these beautiful, look at this. This is a friend of mine. Her name is Anne Nielsen, a painter, and she paints these beautiful angels. And she said, sure, you can use my illustrations for your book. So I think that also kind of breaks it up just to it's a beautiful book.
Something that we presented to our community of women, and it was the concept of the good room. And in your book, The Good Room,
Yes.
talks about how your mother really saved her china for that special occasion,
Yes.
and how the lesson really is to just use everything every day.
Yeah.
But we took it to our community and we said, not something that was physical, but what's something that you would like to sort of let out and shine light on? And we have their quotes in this box. And I would love if maybe you would read one or two.
Oh, lovely, a box of butterflies.
Yes. So these are women who wrote what they wanted to let out.
Oh,
of the
that's
good
so
room.
beautiful. So Vicki Davis is inspired to be kinder and more thoughtful with her responses. So that's beautiful. Vicki, hi Vicki. Emily Messenger, peel back the layers of self and share her story. Well, Emily, all I can tell you is that that's what I did when I wrote my book. And it's like sometimes you just have to plunge in, and your story may be of value to somebody else. And you are a messenger.
When we first started out, there wasn't the way to communicate with people, and now there is, so we can really learn each other's stories.
Yes.
Via social media.
Yes, that's right. Teresa Keener Bryan is inspired to use it all and enjoy it now while you still can. That's such good advice, right?
You wanted to give that to your mom, that advice.
I know. I know. My mom locked up all her china in her good room, and then it all broke. And then you just think, well, and she was saving it for what? And then her life ended so unexpectedly. And, it's just, there was a lesson in there somewhere, just to... Nicole Luongo is inspired to pay it forward. That's a good one, to pay it forward, right?
That's a really good one.
And I tell a story in my book about paying it forward, that I had these incredible people who actually financed my way through college. I couldn't afford to pay for the tuition at drama school, and they financed it, and they said it wasn't a loan, it was an investment in me.
Do you still talk to those people?
I do still talk to those people.
That was a very cool story.
Yeah.
They just believed in you.
They believed in me, but they gave me that gift on the one condition that I would also pay it forward in my life, and I've tried to do that repeatedly.
There are probably a lot of people in school right now.
Yes.
Thanks to
well,
you.
It's just, but if it hadn't been for those people, I wouldn't be sitting here living my dream. So, it's like you never know how you're going to impact somebody's life. You never know. And so the pay it forward is a really important thing. I think if anybody has shown kindness and goodness to you,
show it to someone else.
show it to somebody else.
Yes.
And I, also for me, having lost my mum so young, I thought, what's a way I could continue to love my mother today, 40 years, 45 years after she died. I mean, she's been dead forever, right? And the way I try to honor my mom every day is by living my best life that I can, to pay it forward, the life that she gave me, so that it can, that it can bless somebody else, so that she can live on.
You can feel it, Roma.
That she
really
can live
feel
on.
it.
But these are beautiful. What a beautiful idea. What a gorgeous community you have that they responded. You
the
guys.
Heartfelt community is amazing.
Mary Elizabeth is inspired to share a compliment.
How nice
Great.
is that?
That's so nice.
The small acts of kindness every day.
These are absolutely
read one
lovely.
more?
One more.
Okay.
Lois Ackerman Cazales is inspired to seize the day. I love that. You have 3 names.
Roma says in her book, Real beauty is kindness, gratitude, and love. And so I wanted to thank you for sharing your beauty with us today, with all of us. It was such a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you. I have one surprise. Do
Okay.
you have a moment just to do one surprise? It's my party trick now, and I don't know if it's going to work or not. But yes, till Mother's Day. And so it's like my book is called Box of Butterflies, and I have.
That's fantastic.
Isn't that cute?
It is so cute.
I just found them on Amazon. They're just these little, they're just little wind-up things, but they're.
It's so
anyway.
fun. Anyway, you can see you do it on your Instagram.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everybody, for spending this time with me and Roma. It was our pleasure, and we really loved sharing with you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.